Good morning. First of all, thank you for inviting me here to share my thoughts and have a little bit of discussion about a topic that passionates me. To start with, even if this is called a Saturday lecture series, let's treat this as a discussion. It's not a lecture, I am not lecturing you. Let's keep this as a discussion. I don't know whether a Q&A session, question answer session is planned or not. It is? Yeah, at the end, right? Okay, so let's cancel that. And that means there's no separate Q&A session. You can ask questions, raise points whenever you want. At any point, you can stop me, don't hesitate. Okay, so having there will be a break, all of you know that. So if things get heavy, we'll just stop, take a breather and come back. So the topic for this discussion is Whither L, putting the L back in NLP. So I hope this topic is clear, like Whither L. Whither, you understand whither. Whither is old English for where. Where to actually, but also used as where. So where's the L? And then we are trying to put it back in NLP. So as she said, a lot of you have just heard the term NLP. Do you know what it is? Just the full form? Natural language processing, right. So that's the L that we are talking about. Putting the L, that's language perspective, back in NLP. And why? I'll discuss further. Like people have started actually forgetting the role of L in NLP, which is unfortunate. So, having said the preliminaries, there's one more important thing, disclaimers. What this session is not about. We have 2 hours to talk about what this session is about, but let's first get this thing clear. So, what this session is not about, it's not a course in artificial intelligence, it's not a course in machine learning, deep learning, it's not a course in data science or big data. So, any of you have come in with those expectations, please keep them aside. Similarly, I am not going to talk about programming, algorithm, then statistical techniques, performance, optimization and so on. I am not going to talk about anything of that. If anybody is interested, we can take the discussion offline maybe, but not right now. So, having said this, so what is this session about? It's about language, pure language, nothing but language. So all of us know what language is, right? Yes or no? Yeah, I guess so. So what is it, by the way? What is language? Yeah? Yeah? It's a medium of communication, yes, but that's not enough. We'll need to add something to that. It's a medium of communication, all right, verbal medium of communication, okay, because you can draw pictures and communicate something. You can dance and communicate something, so people say, and you can write something and communicate. Now, written form is a form of language. Let's accept that, because linguistically speaking, written form is not really the language, it's only the spoken part. So let's not get into all that, but this session is about language, pure language. And then language processing. You know what language processing is? Yes, no? Even if you don't know, doesn't matter. Can you tell me what language processing is? You understand the terms language and processing. Now you told me what language is. Now what is processing? Yeah? Understanding the language, yeah. Is that equal to processing? Okay. Interpretation. Now, we will see the language processing systems that exist. How many of them understand language, do you think? Yeah? Any? None. Yeah, human brain understands, but that is not a commercial system as yet. So, so language processing is equal to understanding? I don't know. Processing, any processing. What is processing? What is processing? You take something, work on it, and give out something, and this process is, well, processing. So, taking input, doing something, and then giving output, that is simple processing. So, language processing would mean all these operations performed on language. Okay. This session is also about automatic language processing. Now, what is that? So, which processing? Okay. So, language processing, some of you said understanding. When I am uttering all these words, sentences, all of you say you understand, right? So, what are you doing? As he said, brain processes language. So, what does that mean? Brain takes the input through your ears when I speak, and then does something. We do not know what that is right now. Not just we. Well, the big scientists do not know it as yet either. So, that is okay. So, brain processes it, does something, and then gives output either to itself or to your hands. If the instruction is like pick up the pen, for example, then the instruction goes out to your hand, move in this direction, take this object and pick it up, and so on. So, the brain does the processing, language processing. Now, when we say automatic language processing, what is it? So, what your brain is doing, is it not automatic? How do you know what is what is automatic? Right. So, then how do you define manual? Like doing something by hand, right? So, but you do not do that to your brain. So, would you call that as automatic? Maybe, maybe. So, automatic language processing, that is why I mean it is a question mark, automatic language processing, fine. So, talking in terms of computers, automatic language processing by machines, and this is how we go. We have not yet arrived at computers. I would have loved to have the PPS playing here, so I could play the animations, but anyway, so ignore this, you are not reading this. So, automatic language processing by machines. So, which machines? The JCB machines out there, do they process language? No. Your computers. So, essentially what we mean by machines is computers. Okay. So, we have some idea of what that could be, automatic language processing by computers. Fine. So, this is what we are going to talk about in this session. So, I come back to the favorite question, language. What is language? We have discussed, not fully. A lot of terms you will encounter, we will not be able to discuss them fully. We just have 2 hours. If we were to discuss all of them in detail, we would need at least 200. So, that is the way we are going about it. So, language, where do you encounter? Where do we encounter language? Every day. Where? When you are talking, yes. Only this section is awake, I guess. The others are not. We should have had a coffee break before the session and then the session. Yeah. So, where do you encounter language? When you are talking to somebody, that person is speaking. So, using language, you get to hear it, you process it, and so on. Okay. So, let us try this 1 minute experiment. Okay. I am going to watch the watch, and for the next 1 minute, close your eyes close your eyes and try thinking without language. Okay, close your eyes. I don't want any other external influences on your brain. So just close your eyes and try to think without language. So without words, essentially. Okay, we'll wrap up in half a minute. Fine, no problem. So how many of you could manage it without language? There's only one person. Only pictures? So how can you describe? Smells? Can you think in smells? I said think. I didn't say smell. I said think. Sorry. Yeah? Yeah, right. Yet you can think without language, without any words. Be honest and tell me you did not use a single word in this half a minute. Yes, you were saying something. Yeah, you tell me. You were doing the experiment. Yeah. Thinking. I'm saying thinking. Yeah. So no, I'm asking you. You be honest. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right. So you. The word tree. Yes. Then only it had meaning. So how? Okay. We will do some exceptions. In every experiment has to have some exceptions. Can't be 100%. Successful, right? So we have 2-3 exceptions, but the rest could not think without language. So where do we encounter language? Everywhere. It is with us 24/7, except when we are sleeping. I don't know. I mean, we are unable to observe. Yes.
So babies who do not know language.
Yeah.
I'm sure they think. Undoubtedly they think.
Yes. Yes. They think. They dream. They think. But that's, I would say that's a question for neuroscientists to solve rather than a linguist.
May not carry any meaning. Just a memory that thinking about.
Yeah. Meaning, yes. If I get time, I'll talk about meaning as well. So what do we mean by meaning? So yes, I agree with you. Babies who cannot talk, or who have never probably encountered language, which is very hard, but who've probably never encountered language, they do think, they sleep, as I said, they dream, but I don't know whether to bring it under this or which bag to put it in. Neuroscience, linguistics, yes, okay, I thought you had it down. Okay. The next question. So we encounter it 24/7. It is with us. It doesn't leave us. 24/7. So in which forms do we encounter it? Spoken, verbal, like we are doing right now. We are interacting verbally. Then written form. You read books, newspapers. So is there. So for processing, for language, for computers, well, till now you need the written form of language, the text. You do have speech processing systems. So we will talk about them later. But they essentially, you still need something written. Okay. So language, it's there, it doesn't leave us. So well, why do we need to process it? To extract meaning out of it. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Yeah. But why? I mean, what part in it makes your life comfortable? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So for that, I mean, where's the language processing part in it? Okay. Okay. So can we paraphrase that as saying to capture or gather information? Yes.
Slightly comment about what you have said
Yeah.
a little earlier. You need writing
Yeah.
in order to talk about. Indian history shows that you don't need writing to talk about language.
Yes.
So writing is not part of language.
Yes. I agree totally. I never said you need writing. What I said is writing is a form of language. Strictly speaking, in linguistics, written language is not language. Okay? What we process or what we say as language is spoken, purely spoken. Now, well, this, I mean, when I teach.
1,000 years you didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. When I teach classes, this debate takes almost 2 sessions. Writing, the first statement I make is writing is useless. And then there's a big uproar in the class. And how can you say that? All our lives we've been writing and so on. The first thing, yeah, the very first impression when you start learning a language is writing. How many of you think Japanese is easy to learn? No, not at all. Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay, how many of you know Marathi? I'm just making sure. So, majority. So, if I take an example in Marathi, should it be okay? Yeah. Okay, so, what did I just do? How can I say in Marathi? Mi pani pito, okay? Mi pani pito. In Japanese, what do you say? Watashi wa mizu o nomimasu. Okay? Mi, pani, pito. Watashi wa is me, mizu o, that is pani, nomimasu, pito. Okay? Easy? Okay, so coming back to his question, linguistically, Japanese and Marathi have very similar syntax. It is very easy to learn Japanese if you ignore the writing. Imagine, as Dr. Vaidya said, a child, okay, not the one who doesn't speak, but a 3 or 4-year-old child or 2-year-old child who has not yet learnt writing or alphabet. Can they not speak? Unfortunately, in India, we have a lot of illiterate people who have never been to school. Can they not speak? Right? They still speak. They still speak Japanese, not Japanese. Like, imagine a child in Japan, and the child would still be speaking Japanese. Over here, Marathi, English, wherever. So you don't need script for language, and you are very right in stating that. So, Maukhika Parampara is what you were referring to. We had for so many centuries, we had knowledge being transmitted orally. The Veda were never written. They were always Maukhika. But when you say writing or script is useless, it's with a pinch of salt, because scripts have their own advantage or uses in transfer of knowledge or transmission of knowledge. Spatio-temporal. So, something that is written 100 years ago, you can still have it available. Something that was spoken 100 years ago, it's not available. Similarly, geographically, I'm speaking here, but somebody in the US is not able to hear me. But if I write it and send it by email, they're able to hear it. Now, you will say you can record it and send it and so on. So, that discussion can go on. The point is, yes, language and script are two very different things, and we should learn to dissociate them. They have their advantages, disadvantages, but linguistically speaking, it's the spoken word that is interesting. That is language. Okay? So, this was a small detour, but interesting and necessary one. So why do we process language? So to communicate, or if you can paraphrase that, to gather information, you ask questions, somebody processes the question. Now whether it's Google or your colleague, they process your question, process the language, and look for that information, find it out and pass it back to you, either on your screen if it's Google, or if it's your friend or colleague, they'll talk to you, right? So we need to process language. How? Now that's the question. How do we process language? And how do we process language? We don't know. As in, we don't know it fully. How does our brain function? We don't know it fully. It's still under research, and the biggest of scientists are still working on it. But we try to emulate or simulate the brain in your programming, and then we try to process language computationally. How? All of you know, when you study NLP from the computing angle or programming angle, you know, variable, declare variables, you do all the do while, if then else, loops, etc. Use this method, that jar and whatnot. It's not my domain, but we process it somehow. Yeah.
I'm not sure we really need words. We are talking about sound processing more, right? Even with the verbally, you don't need words to communicate something. You just need some kind of sound.
Okay. So, is that all? Yeah, I mean, I'll start answering then. Yeah, sure. So, what did I just do? I coughed. And what's the meaning out of it? Either I have cold, simple. But if there's a discussion going on between somebody, and if I want to interrupt, I do, or instead of saying excuse me, there's another way. You can say excuse me, and then you can interrupt.
So we are processing sound in some context.
Yes, exactly. But now again, in this domain of linguistics, such sounds are, or even like there's a big chaos going on in the class and the teacher does this, right? This communication with sound, and people process it. They suddenly realize that there's a teacher in the class and they sit down and so on, right? In the domain of linguistics, this is non-verbal communication. And linguistics is interested in verbal communication, that is language as we know it. I'll come to that later. Again, very briefly, as I said, 2 hours is not enough. We'll probably need 200 hours at least to talk about all these. But yes, you're right. All these are forms of communication, but they don't fall under the, or they fall in the bag of linguistics or language. In linguistics, we are interested in verbal communication. Okay?
No, for the specific reason why I'm
Yeah.
asking, like he is working on sound of words. So it's really not the word what we are saying.
Yes.
We might have some specific sounds.
Yes. 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 That's a very interesting topic actually. Even when I teach linguistics, this is one topic that I do take up for discussion, and that is animal language versus human language. And there are quite a few similarities as well as distinctions, and there are some properties that make the human language separate from animal language. Probably some other time. Yes, and there's one more, since we are talking about it, you can also communicate with gestures, something called as body language. Right? These are gestures that you're still communicating something. People do process it. Again, it doesn't fall under language per se and linguistics. So, if there is a branch called as body linguistics, I don't know. But as per my knowledge, there's linguistics and language and human language. So, probably in one of the next slides, I'll touch upon that again. So, that is about language processing. Now, So, the third point, automatic language processing by machines, not just any machines, but computers. So, but this looks like too long a title to have for a field. So, like AL, PBM, AL, PBC, etc., etc. Let's just cut it short and do it as NLP. So, NLP is natural language processing, as you told me right at the beginning. So, automatic by computers, everything is implicit, it's packed in that NLP, natural language processing. So, this sounds better probably. And by the way, we haven't discussed, we discussed this, we discussed this. This element we haven't yet discussed, the natural in NLP. So, this natural is actually as opposed to artificial. So, natural language versus artificial language. Do you know, anybody has an idea of the is there a difference in the first place? Well, terminologically yes, but what can that be? Okay, anything else? Yeah?
Language that is acquired.
Acquired as in when you learn?
We've been learning maybe from people around us.
Okay, okay,
The language which is naturally acquired.
oh, okay. So, that is
Natural.
okay. I thought you were talking about artificial, like something that is acquired is artificial or natural. No, I'm just asking. Yeah. So, naturally artificial or artificially natural language. Yes. Okay. 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 Is it audible what he's saying, or I'll just repeat? I mean, yeah. He said languages like programming languages which have fixed set of rules are artificial, and other languages we can modify, they don't have fixed set of rules. Okay, that is a loaded statement, but we'll come to it. Okay, anything else, any other views? So, yes, you're right, programming languages for example are artificial languages. Now, what is artificial? Anything in around you, there's something natural and something you call as artificial. So, what is artificial and what is natural? Not just language, anything, yeah. Man-made, which have, I didn't hear you properly. Unconventional and trained, okay, yeah. So, the trees, the mountains, rivers, etc., whatever, wherever they exist. So, they are, would you call them as artificial or natural? They are natural. Why wouldn't you call them as artificial? Okay, the bench or this dais, is it natural or artificial? Artificial. Why? It's made by somebody, and you know who it is made by. One, when it was made, right? So, you know the creator, you know the, well, roundabout date of creation or period of creation, usually made by man-made, okay, that's artificial. And the trees and mountains and seas and what, you don't know who made them. Now, there are various faiths about who does them, but we are not going into that, that's not linguistics. So, something that is man-made is artificial, and something that is not man-made is natural. Let's take this simplistic view for the moment. And there is another important aspect in that, you know the creator and you know when it was created for artificial things. Okay? So, programming languages, I am sorry, I have a bad throat today. So, programming languages, they are artificial. Why? Because you know Mr. Kernighan and Mr. Ritchie, they created C. Okay, people still remember, people still know. That's about my knowledge of computers. So, my knowledge is stuck there, yours has probably advanced. So, Kernighan, Ritchie, they sat down and created C. We don't know the exact date, but we don't round about, right? Same goes for all programming languages, right? That's one. Then, how many of you have seen or watched the movie Avatar? Anything remarkable there? Linguistically, of course, not the special effects and all. Yes, the language, that is Navi. The name is Navi and it's an artificial language. The writer sat down and created that language. Esperanto, have you heard about it? Esperanto, it's a language. I don't know whether I can write here or, yeah. So, Esperanto, that's a language created by man. Late 19th century, late 19th century, early 20th century, I guess. I'm not sure about the date. It was created by man. The aim was to have a global language for the world. There were too many fights, world wars and everything going on. So, people said that is because we don't have a common language. We don't understand each other, etc., etc. Now, it's a different question whether do you understand each other even when you have a common language. But let's just ignore that for the moment. So, the idea was to create a world language so that everybody could communicate with each other and there would be peace in the world. So, the intention was very noble and this was created in Europe, in Austria, I guess. And you have Esperanto clubs around the world. By the way, there's one in Pune, in camp. So, people do gather, speak the language, etc., but it's still artificial. Somebody sat down and created it. Okay? There are so many other languages that are artificial. So, in movies, in what's that, Lord of the Rings, you have artificial language. So, there are so many examples of artificial languages, and the languages that we speak generally, they are natural languages. Hindi, Marathi, English, French, German, Hebrew, Arabic, Greek, you name them. Nobody knows when and by whom they were created. Do you know the creator of English? No. Marathi? No, nobody knows. Yeah. Exactly, that's the point. There is no single creator. Whereas for artificial language, there is, well, a single or a group of creators. But nobody knows who created Hindi or Marathi or English or German or French, Nahuatl, Esperanto we know, Hebrew, Hottentot. So, they are natural. And as you said, they evolve. Yes, they evolve each and every day. A language is a living thing, by the way. It's born, it develops and it dies. But let's not go into all that. The point is, they are all natural languages. So, when we say natural language processing, we are interested in processing Hindi, Marathi, English, French, German, Hebrew, Arabic, etc., etc., right? So, that's the distinction between artificial and natural. Plus, language, so there's the point, assumes, when you say language over here, it assumes human language, not animal language, bird language. As I said, this is a topic for some other time. Very interesting discussion, but right now cannot go into that. Okay, so we defined NLP, that's natural language processing. So, where do we encounter NLP? Now that we have set the framework, all of you know or have come across this, spell checkers, grammar checkers, when you write or type a document, MS Word or any other text editing software. So, you have spell checkers embedded, you have grammar checkers, you have those red lines, blue lines, whatever, right. Then you have automatic translators like Google Translate. Any other you know? Yeah? Yeah, there are many actually, exactly. So, the most well known is Google, but you have Bing translators in Bing everywhere. So, automatic translators. Then you have chatbots automatic question answering systems. Chatbots is it's another buzzword these days. Everybody is behind chatbots. All startups, they want to create chatbots. So what is that?
The credit goes to Turing machines and Alex.
Yes.
Elisa and all those.
Right. So yes, everybody is happy in giving the credit as long as they get paid for it. So yes, Elisa and all, I mean, those experiments go back what, 50, 60 years?
It's long way.
Yeah, exactly. But these days, all startups, any startup you come across wants to create a chatbot for whatever, for health, for finance, for call center automation, etc., etc. So chatbots and automatic question answering systems. Then you have virtual assistants like Siri, Alexa, Cortana, Google Assistant, and so on. Again, there are a lot of startups that want to build virtual assistants, automatic scheduler systems, meeting schedulers, etc., etc., etc. Then you have automatic weather reports and news articles. You probably have heard that now people don't write news articles anymore. People as in humans. They are written automatically by machines. Weather reports, they are written automatically by machines. Started. I don't know what's the state in India, but in Canada, in China, it's all automated. Reporters don't write the news articles anymore. They're written by machines. Weather reports, you get the weather data from satellites and weather stations and all, and just compile them and you have the weather report ready. Driverless cars, that's another big thing that is not yet come in. I don't know when and if it will come in India, but anyways the cars that we see are almost as driverless, but not just cars, all vehicles. So, but I mean, what's language to do with driverless car? Yeah.
Would a plagiarism checker come under?
Yeah. No, this is not an exhaustive list. And you can go on 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 pages of all applications that have NLP. But I have just listed some that came to mind. So driverless cars, what do they have to do with language? The idea is just go sit and it takes you wherever, right? How does it know where to take you? You need to, either you tell it through the app that I want to go here and etc. If it's not there, then you probably have to speak or tell the absent driver that I want to go wherever, to the university, it takes you. So you have come across all these. So the point is, did we know that all this had NLP, like the question, the plagiarism checker? You've used it. Did we know that all of that runs on NLP? Or more importantly, the L. Now that is of my interest. It still has to process language, so it cannot forget the L in it. Okay? So what more do we know about NLP? So those were the applications, some of the applications that use NLP, that are built on NLP, etc. What more do we know about NLP? The first year students, maybe not the second year students, I don't know who they are, but they may try to answer. So you have automata, finite state automata. Do you study it anymore or no, not anymore? Okay. Speech processing, yes. What is it? Processes your speech. Okay, let's stay with that. Statistics. Now what does statistics do with NLP? Everything. These days, everything. People have forgotten this L, and so it's all statistics. You gather what? Tons of data, process it, then churn out numbers, patterns, and you say you're done. What have you done? Nobody knows. Big data and analytics. So you gather those terabytes, petabytes, zettabytes, whatnot, data, do the analytics and so on. So all that is labeled under NLP, by the way. If you just take a look at the job advertisements, these are the skills that are required under NLP, by the way. So machine learning, deep learning, and so on, the list goes on. Do you see anywhere linguistics? Knowledge of language? Nowhere. Go and check job advertisements, nowhere, you'll see. hardly in a few places. So that's my concern. People have forgotten the L in NLP. They do everything else but NLP, the L. So we encounter NLP. I don't know whether we can zoom this or not. No, not possible. Because I don't think if people can't read, then they won't be able to appreciate. Yeah, I guess we should be able to zoom, right? So it's here. Let's do it 200%. Okay. Oops. Where's that? How do I make the? Okay. Yeah. Keypad, right. Okay. So you encounter spell checkers, autocorrects, and stuff like that. So they do work at times, like over here. There's one L missing in spelling check, so it has captured. Then aapka din mangalai, so it has captured that there's something wrong over here, and it has given you the option. But there are times when it, well, doesn't work. So what do you want to do for lunch? I think I'm going to stay home and eat a slave. I need to save money. So since when did you become a cannibal? Oh my God, I meant slave. No, sorry, salad. I give up. You find this all the time, right? The autocorrects. Grandpa bought me a corn dog from the devil. The devil? No, the Delhi. So, and then, well, Mr. Glasbergen always has something to say about things. Can you read this? Yeah. If not, I'll blow it up some more. I don't know whether you can read this or not, or maybe I should zoom it some more. But that's the state of, well, state of the art, I would say, in autocorrects. Okay, so next. No, this one. Next page, okay. Yeah. So that was spell checkers and autocorrects. Now grammar check. And this is, yes, this I must tell you, this is the latest Taza. I was sending something to Professor Arjun Wadkar, and I ran the spell check and grammar check. It told me spelling and grammar check was complete. You're good to go. Do you see this? And this happened to me yesterday, by the way. So, and then I corrected it, and it still says you're good to go. So, well, that's the state. The grammar checkers we encounter all the time. Then, what else do we have? Automatic translation. Yes, this is interesting. So, as an experiment, a small experiment, I run this. The quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog in Google Translate, and I run it in 3 languages. So, Hindi, त्वरित बुरे लोमड़ी एक आलसी कुत्ते पर कूद गया. Doesn't make sense. Marathi, I don't know if you can read this. And the last one is French, which is, well, not great either. So, and this one, interesting. I read a book, or I read a book. No, I didn't try. I didn't have the time, but yes, people have done that, and that's even more hilarious, actually. So, I read a book, I read a book. I don't know. That's in written, that's ambiguous, because the present form and the past form are the same in written form for English. So, I read a book, I read a book. I don't know, whichever way you want to take it, it goofs up here. मी पुस्तक वाचले in Marathi, so it has taken the past form. I read a book, fine. मैंने एक किताब पढ़ी Hindi, which is still fine. It's consistent. In French, what it does is je lis un livre. So over here it has taken the present tense. So for these two it has taken I read a book, and over here it has taken I read a book. My instructions were nothing else but this. So it has goofed up probably. Now based on statistics. Why and how you probably know. It was trained that way. It found a probability of this being a past tense, and then it translated into past tense. But the point is, it's not consistent across languages. If it were to take a past tense, it should take past tense all the time. And this is the third one is, in my opinion, a very interesting example. This was again based on real life story. Okay, Facebook. One of my Facebook friends had this, celebrating Diwali, happy Diwali to you and your family. That's what you can read, right? And then Facebook proposed, should I translate it into English? Okay, first goof up. It's already in English, right? Written form, I don't care, but if you read it, happy Diwali to you and your family, that's English. But Facebook goofed up. It asked me whether I should translate. I said, okay, let's have some fun. So I said, go ahead, translate. And this is the translation, and it says automatically translated. So it's like, blame it on the computer, not me. So nah, I don't know, I can't read it. So this is an English to English translation, so to speak, done by Facebook automatically. Now where it goofed up was, why, in the first place, why did it ask me, do you want to translate? It's because it was fooled by the script. It doesn't look like the Roman script. It looks something else, Cyrillic or Greek script. So it asked me, so it assumed that the script is different, so the language has to be different. That's the association, unfortunate association that we make with script and language, which we need to dissociate. Even if the script is different, the language is still English. Now this is a, well, this is not really a script. It's like a, well, ornamental form of some script. But this is where they goof up.
A lot of times it translates English text to English text and says that it's been translated from Greek and stuff.
Yes, exactly. So this is the same thing. Only thing is, over here it failed totally. It could not understand where it came from, Greek or English or wherever. But yes, you're right. The trouble is they ignore the language. Okay, then. So those were spell checkers, grammar checkers, translators. Then you have chatbots, automatic QA system, virtual assistants. So we are just running a bit behind time. So I'll just read it out. So there's a chatbot, and this person is making a shopping list. So add 4 apples. I meant 4 bananas. So the chatbot says, okay, I added to your shopping list 4 apples and 4 bananas. So it just took that there are 4 apples and 4 bananas and it added. It didn't look at the language. I meant over here actually is a negation. That cancel the first one and this is the new one. Ignored totally. So the L has been ignored. Then you must have read this. This was in the news a while ago. Facebook shuts down the robots after they invent their own language. Now that's again another topic for discussion. Whether you can call that as a language, whether you can call that as a their own language which we cannot understand, whether you need to feel threatened, that's a topic for some other discussion. This one, it's unfortunately very small, but it's, I don't know, one and a half year ago, Microsoft had launched a bot called Tay, and then it had to be shut down within 24 hours. That is because over here, it starts by saying you humans are great and cool and whatnot, and then it goes through the day, and in the end, I'm sorry, but it says, I hate Jews. Hitler was right, I hate Jews. So it ended up, within a matter of 24 hours, it ended up from humans are cool and super to racist comments. And this is somebody who is commenting that this chatbot went from this extreme to this extreme in 24 hours. So, well, this person says, now I am assured of the future of AI. So we don't need to be afraid of AI anymore. So you must have known the debate that's going on between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg about the AI thing. So you don't need to be afraid, not as yet. And then again, Mr. Glassbergen, I'll just blow this up because you can't miss this. We had a scheduling conflict, so tomorrow's meeting has been moved to yesterday. So, well, bots. Okay, then. So this was okay. How do I F5? Okay. Yeah, good. So till now we were in all this. Where do we encounter language? What is processing? Where do we process it? Where do we encounter people who say they process language, etc., 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 etc. Now is the time to get under the hood. That is, all these systems, they say to do NLP. So where is that L in NLP? Where is that role of language? Or how does this study of language or knowledge of language actually help in building these systems for NLP? So we are getting inside or under the hood. So we've talked about it a lot, and then again, so what we most probably don't know in all these NLP, all these applications that say that they process NLP and whatnot, the L is something that I doubt. That's why I put the word most probably don't know. Now this L is concerned with language and the field of science or study that has language as a subject matter is called as linguistics. And often we see people confusing between three concepts: linguistics, computational linguistics, and natural language processing. So I'll just take a brief overview of that. So linguistics is theoretically defined as scientific study of language. So as in case of any other scientific study in physics, chemistry, biology, whatever, it's a scientific study of language. So it's based on observation, analysis, hypothesis, and inferences. And those inferences are in the form of so-called rules of language. So somebody said that artificial versus natural languages are those that don't have any rules. I don't know whether you agree with that or not. When you say something when say you, if I say like this, is it okay? Why not? Because English dictates that I say when you say something, and not something say you when. It's a rule. Well, you're not fined 50 rupees or whatever for not following the rule, but it's still a rule. Now, so through this study of language, observation of what people speak, you collect data, analyze the data, and come up with some inferences that okay, people say this, so they put noun first, then the verb, then another noun, etc., etc. So we say that English is a SVO language, subject, verb, object. I drink tea. So there's a subject I, verb drink, tea. Whereas Marathi or Japanese, as we saw earlier, watashi wa ocha o nomimasu. That is, I tea drink. Me chaha pito, I tea drink. So Marathi, Japanese are SOV kind of languages, that is subject, object, verb. So different languages have different rules or norms, whatever you want to call, but they are there, you can't ignore them. So linguistics studies all that. Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly. Now that's a different rule system or criteria where that's in syntax. You say that Marathi syntax is flexible, whereas English is a positional language, syntactically speaking. So the position determines the function of the word. So, when you say okay, I or rather okay, John beats Paul, okay, this is the sentence. Then in this sentence, John is the subject and Paul is the object, right. If I reverse, Paul beats John, okay, same words, the word order is changed, everything changes. Now Paul becomes the subject, John becomes the object, whereas in Marathi or Hindi, John Paula marto or haravto, just to be less violent. So John Paula haravto, Paula haravto John, Paula John haravto, everything means the same. Why? The syntax is flexible, but that is I mean, we can go on about it. Syntactically, the roles or the functions of words are marked in them. They are called as case markers. Something, if you remember something from school, vibhakti pratyay, so they come there in Marathi or Hindi or Indian languages, and that gives the languages the flexibility to shuffle words around, keeping the meaning same. So that's why they are not positional languages. English, on the other hand, is a positional language. So the position of the word determines its function. So we can go about that or go on and on in linguistics. The point is, all this is subject matter of study for linguistics. All this different behavior of different languages, language specific rules, norms, etc. Okay? And we are going to see that further. Then you have computational linguistics and natural language processing. So CL NLP, you might come across the word pair CL/NLP. Well, NLP is actually the engineering part of it. So it's like comparing physics and mechanical engineering. So some aspects of physics, I don't know, I am no expert in physics, you may correct me if I am wrong, but say for example thermodynamics and heat engineering, maybe, you correct me. The point is, NLP is the engineering aspect of it. I hope you understand theoretical versus engineering or applied. So computational linguistics is the theoretical part or theoretical aspect among these two. Now with linguistics and computational linguistics, it is the looking at linguistic problems through a computational angle, like how you can compute, but it still remains theoretical with respect to NLP, which is purely engineering. So now we dive inside. So the L in NLP, where all does it matter? So we go back to the systems that we saw earlier, the NLP systems, spell checks, grammar checks, translators, etc. So we'll take them one by one. So speech processing systems, you have text to speech, speech to text. In Adobe Reader, you can read the page, right? So that's what? That's a text to speech. It takes your text, it reads it back to you, right? You have speech to text. Know any examples? Correct. Or a dictator, not dictator, sorry, the dictation systems, wherein you dictate and the system writes a memo, for example, or a letter. Those are speech to text. So they take input in the form of speech or voice, and the output is text written. And then you have spoken QA, QA as in question answering, not quality assurance. So question answering systems or assistants like Siri, Alexa, Cortana, etc. You talk to them, right? Siri, you must have used. Anybody has iPhones, you must have used Siri. So they are all speech processing system. So what is this L component in it? Now all that engineering and programming aside, all that is based on is this called as phonetics and phonology. That's the sub branch or branch of linguistics that helps all these systems to actually come into existence. Now what is phonetics and phonology? It is study of sounds of language. You can study language at different levels, sounds, words, sentences, meaning, etc. We will see all of them. So, this is the one of the levels, phonetics, phonology, which is study of sound. So, what does it do? Now, okay, another disclaimer or warning, you will now onwards you will encounter a lot of technical terminology, technical in linguistics of course. Okay. I may not have time to discuss and explain all of them, but I would be happy to discuss it offline. As far as possible, I will still try and explain over here. So, the phonetics and the branch phonetics and phonology studies the sounds of language. So, sound production, description, classification, consonants, vowels, how do you differentiate between consonants and vowels, then how do you describe how consonants and vowels are produced. All this is a subject matter of study for phonetics and phonology. Now, all of this international phonetic alphabet is a script developed to represent all the sounds in language. For example, the earlier example, I read a book or I read a book. When you write it, it's the same, but when you speak, it's two different sounds. E, I read, so it's E, whereas I read, so it's A. So, your traditional Roman script is incapable of distinguishing between these two. This international phonetic alphabet is designed by phoneticians and linguists to differentiate between these. As I said, linguistics is a scientific study wherein you cannot afford to have confusions and ambiguities, like is it read or read, is it E or A, you cannot afford to have that. So, this alphabet tries and succeeds almost to distinguish between each and every sound of human language, and that is what is used to transcribe sounds for linguistic study. And you know this, anybody knows where you encounter IPA? You do encounter, yes? Wikipedia, yes. I was looking at a more traditional way, but yes, Wikipedia, yes. Dictionaries, exactly. So, in dictionaries, in front of the word, all right, after the word you have something written in, you don't know what, Greek and Latin, that's the IPA. And if you, and there's a key given elsewhere in the dictionary, if you follow that, you will be able to pronounce the word exactly, and that's the purpose for this IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay. So, yes. So, then again, phonemes of individual language, I don't think we have time to go into all this, but phonemes are individual sounds of individual languages. So, all this is studied under this sounds of various languages. Then syllables, again that is important. Now, why is all this important for this? If your system cannot distinguish between two sounds, how can it function? So, at the base it is this, and then you must have heard the term alphabet. Alphabet function, rather devised on alphabet. So, it is a cross between IPA and the alphabet tradition. If not, you can go and Google it. So, that is used for mapping sounds to computer processable bits of data, right, for speech processing systems. Again, we won't have time to go into details, but I am just giving you terms so that if you are interested, curious, you can go and search. So, syllables, what are syllables? Combinations of consonants and vowels. Again, why are they important? We speak in syllables. When I say we, what is that? It's a syllable, it's not a word, it's a word, but it's a syllable essentially. At the level of sounds, it's w, the consonant w and e, or the semi-consonant w and e, and that makes up we. Speak. So, s, p, e, speak, speak. We speak in syllables. The system, the speech processing system has to be able to distinguish between, it cannot distinguish or it cannot break a sound utterance in sp and eek. It has to know that it has to break at sp and k. Well, it's still one syllable, not two, speak. But if you say Esperanto, then it's Esperanto. Okay? All this is studied in linguistics, in phonetics, phonology, and all these systems feed on that. If this study doesn't happen, all these systems will have no existence. Prosody, tones, intonation, accentuation, now all this we do it, we don't realize. Intonation, for example, where do you find it? Where do you find it? How do you know it's a question? Did I say question mark anywhere? The intonation, it's a rising intonation. Where do you see it or where do you find it? Okay, I am starting here. Where do you find it? I am going up. Did I say question mark anywhere? No, but all of you understood that it was a question, and the system has to understand this. If not, how will it know whether you are asking a question to the system? So it has to follow this intonation pattern. So in writing you use the punctuation marks, the full stop, comma, semicolon, exclamation mark, question mark, etc., etc., and what not. Do you speak any of them? No. Do you say full stop anywhere? Nowhere. Or it's your intonation and tones, it's the prosody of your language that gives clue to all this. And if this study is not done, your Siri and Alexa are clueless of what you are seeing, right? Accent, for example. Now, in our languages, well, accent it's a different phenomenon. I have listed it. In French, for example, the the last syllable of a phonological word is stressed, and that is a distinctive marker for French. You need to understand that, okay, this is stressed, so this is one unit, this is one unit. In Italian, for example, is the second last syllable that is stressed. How many of you say pizza? It's pizza. It's the second last syllable that has to be stressed. But if you go out and give me a pizza, people will say accent Martin, right? But that's the way Italians speak it. But an Italian speech processing system needs to know all this. We don't care. The point is, all this study has to happen first for this to exist, right? Next, grammar checkers, information extraction, automatic translation. So what do they feed on? Morphology, syntax, semantics. I am going to go into each of them, but I have just clubbed them together here, and we will go into the details in the following slides. Oops, I pressed something else. Okay, yeah. So morphology, that's the study of word structure. Word structure in language, how a particular word is constructed, how it is built, right? So you can have individual words, speak, simply. Then you can have a word plus word, blackboard. It's made up of black and board. Two words coming together. Or you can have a word and affix combination. Affix is prefix, suffix, the collective noun is affix. You can have infix, suprafix. Let's not go into all that. So internationalization, I don't know if you are able to read this, but I'll read it out. The example is internationalization. Now what is this monster of a word? It doesn't sound so monstrous, right? But if I break it down, where does it come from? Yes? National? International? Internationalize? Yes. So you have nation. Okay. Then you have national. Then you have nationalize. and then you have nationalization, and then you have internationalization. That is one way, but you could very well have international over here and then internationalize and then internationalization. It is possible, there is no right or wrong about it. The point is, this is called as a base, and then you attach the suffix al. Okay. Now, this becomes the base and you attach the suffix eyes, then this becomes the base and you attach the suffix shan, and then this becomes the base and you attach the prefix inter, right. So, all this study comes under morphology. It is how the word is constructed or built. So, it is a combination of word and affix, multiple affixes, multiple prefixes, suffixes, etc. You can go on. It could also be a combination of affix and affix, like biology. Now, over here, when you say word, it is a lone standing or independent word, nation by itself, right. In case of biology, it is made up of bio and logy, and none of them are words in their right. You can't just say bio. When you say, that is a short form, right, abbreviation of something, but bio and then logy by itself does not exist. You have to attach it to sociology, phonology, morphology. So, logy is a study of something. Bio, so bio informatics, biosciences, etc., etc. So, it can also be a combination of affix plus affix. Now, this terminology is not exactly, if some linguist were to see this, they would catch me by my throat right now, because I am not being technically exact with the terminology, but I am just simplifying things for the sake of discussion. And then there is this phenomenon called as inflection in language, which covers the verb conjugations. So, you have tenses, present tense, past tense, future tense, first person, second person, third person, singular, plural, etc., etc. You had all these conjugations, right. Walk, to walk, I walk, you walk, he walks, etc., etc. That is the present tense. Then you have the present continuous, walking, or the gerund form, then walked, the past tense, etc. So, all this is called as inflection, again simplistic term, but still it is the construction of this that interests morphology. Then you have noun and adjective declinations. So, man, men, or hirwa in Marathi, for example, hirwa, and then pakshi if it is plural, if it is singular, hirwa pakshi, if it is plural, hirve pakshi. So, hirwa changes to hirve, or hirvya झाडावर pakshi basla ahe, right. So, it becomes hirvya. So, all this is inflection, the form is getting changed, inflected, right. All this is studied in morphology. Then you have derivation, various words that, new words that are created. How? So, you have compounds, two independent words coming together, chainsaw, chainsaw is a third word that is created. Or you have reduplications, ding dong, or in Marathi, barbar, chat chat, zulu zulu, etc. Then you have portmanteau, again, portmanteau means a big suitcase or a hold all. So, it is that kind of word, wherein you take two words, chop some parts and join them. Fictionary, that is dictionary of fiction becomes fictionary. So, you attach fiction and dictionary together, or so I think the example closer to you is Brangelina or Saifina, right. Saif and Karina, Saifina, Brad and Angelina, Brangelina. So, probably you would relate to that more than fictionary. So, the point is, all this study has to happen for a grammar checker to know, or a translator, automatic translator to know what is being translated, right. This, for example, if it does not understand verb conjugations, the case of read and read, whether it is present tense, past tense or what, how does it translate? How does it even check your grammar, whether you are right or wrong? In place of saying I I am walking, you say I walking, like the example that I showed you. He been teaching. He has been teaching. The grammar checker clearly went wrong there. Then syntax. Okay, just to, I mean, if you have lost track, we are talking about this. So we saw this morphology. Now we are looking at syntax, where it helps. So syntax, that's the study of sentence structure. Morphology, we saw it's a study of word structure or word construction. Now syntax is a study of sentence structure, how the sentence is constructed. So there you have part of speech, various parts of speech like John, Paul, John beats Paul. So it's a noun, verb, noun, proper noun, etc. Right? I drink tea. So it's I, pronoun, drink, verb, tea as a proper, sorry, not proper, common noun. Okay? So all this comes under part of speech tagging. These are various techniques, by the way. Part of speech tagging, parsing. They are techniques or smaller tools that are used in NLP. And they are all based on this morphology and syntax study. So parsing, there are two types, more than two, but two, the most, what do you call, used, constituency and dependency. So I don't think you are able to read this. Should I try to? No. Okay. Are you able to read this now? Fruit flies like a banana. Now this is a, well, I just found it on the internet, so I took it. That's a curious example to take. But so it is divided into noun phrase, verb phrase, then adjective, noun, etc., etc. All this parsing has to happen. Now this is one way of parsing a sentence. The another way is, what's the important word is the like, then everything else is connected to this, like this. Okay. Now this is an ambiguous statement, by the way. Fruit flies like a banana. What's the meaning? What's the meaning of fruit flies like a banana? There's some fruit that flies in the same manner as a banana flies, right? Fruit flies like a banana. No? Now, whether it's possible or not is a different question. That we don't care in linguistics, right? That's a different study in semantics, truth values and whatnot. We are not going into that. In purely structural linguistics, this is possible. Why not? Or fruit flies. What is fruit fly? A fly is an insect. So fruit fly is an insect that sits on fruits. So flies is a plural of fly, a fly, many flies, one fly, many flies. So fruit flies is one word, not two words, as we saw with chainsaw earlier or blackboard. Oops, sorry. Yeah, you remember that. And then like a banana. So like is the verb, that is they adore or they appreciate banana. Anyway, so the point is, you can now how this sentence is parsed gives it meaning. Now if this fruit flies, if it's an adjective and noun, then it becomes fruit flies, that is the insects, like verb banana. Or I'll just draw it instead of explaining here, which will be lost if I don't put it in writing. So fruit flies. Okay, so you have okay, I'm not going into too many details, but the point is, another way of parsing this is fruit, and instead of having verb like, I have verb flies and then like a banana. Okay, so the way you parse this sentence gives it meaning. And well, this actually again, this is another way, this was proposed by Lucien Tenier, a French linguist, dependency structure. So, this can again be represented something like this. The point is, unless the system understands how to parse it, it is going to go wrong in processing. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. It identifies the main verb, or rather main element. Not, it may not be verb all the time, and then identifies how the rest of the elements are attached to it. Okay, and what are dependents on it. So, over here it has taken like as the main word or main element, and then it says flies and banana are directly dependent on like. So, flies like banana, and then they have their own dependence like fruit and a. So, this is the interpretation of this parsing.
How does it decide that this word is important in next?
Okay. So, how does the system?
Yeah, that structure.
Yeah. Okay. This is done by humans. This was proposed by humans. As I said, Lucien Tenier was a French linguist who proposed this, and humans did this. Now, it's a matter of research how we teach this to the system to do. Now, okay, it's a longer discussion, but this comes in handy. It identifies the verbs, and then it says probably verbs are the roots of the sentence, and then it takes a verb. So, over here, now this part of speech tagging is different. It identifies flies as a verb, like I have done here. But for this, it needs to identify like as a verb, and then based on that, it identifies verb, then the direct dependence. Okay, has anybody gone to Stanford Core NLP site? You can go and check this. It gives you the tree structure, and it rather there you can identify. Now, how does it do that? There's a lot of statistics and linguistic rules behind that. So, it's based on statistics, mostly statistics, and so it gets a lot of things wrong, but that's the best way to do it right now. So, based on statistics, so what's the probability of this being the root? What was the probability of this being the root, with this being the verb, etc., etc. All these algorithms are built into it. So, if you want, we can discuss, or you can go and find out. I'll just write it: Stanford Core NLP. That's the toolkit actually, which has a lot of these tools. The part of speech tagger, the dependency parser, shallow parsers, everything built into it. So, you can go and explore.
I mean, other languages where this kind of thing does not give you a tree.
Okay, the tree is designed by humans. So, we represent it hierarchically. Language per se doesn't dictate anything. Are you getting me? Like, we decide that this is the most important element in the sentence. And then,
Can you have some structure in which something is also on the left and also on the right?
yeah,
You have a closed loop,
whichever, close.
which does not become a tree. I mean, can you have some? Is that natural or is it not natural?
No. See, the language doesn't dictate anything. My point is, we have designed this to be in the form of a tree. You can have it without, well, you can, it's just a form of representation. Like, you can have, these days you have parsers that have this sentence, and then like Stanford does it as well.
Brackets.
Brackets, yes, brackets, or it just connects it this way. Just another form of visualization, that's it. But language per se doesn't dictate whether it should be a tree or what.
Maybe if you are to like break down the heptapod language from arrival, you probably wouldn't have a structure like this, maybe.
We don't know. They have given it as a script, like it's written in a circular form and hexagonal form or whatever. Why not? I mean, I don't see why it could not be a tree like this. Because this is a form of visualization, wherein you give the importance to the core of the sentence, and then you say that the other elements, or you try to see how the other elements are attached to the core, okay, which this representation is independent of language.
So the core of the sentence depends on what the intention
Could be,
right?
could be, yes, could be. So there is no one silver bullet. That is why there are more than one possibilities to parse a sentence. Or as I said, right now we have verb, but for example, he is a president. In that case, president is probably the root of the sentence and not is, even if it is a verb. So it is possible. My point is, this is independent of language. This is just a form of visualization. Now, whether you visualize it as a tree or as a circle or as some linear structure, the important thing to note is there is a hierarchical structure in sentence, and this is studied under syntax, the structure of a sentence, study of sentence structure, okay. And unless this is done, and this is not done, I mean this is not a solved problem. That is why you get so many mistakes in translators and grammar checkers, because people are still working on it. Okay, so this is syntax. Then semantics. So semantics is the study of meaning. Remember, again, I'll just go back. So over here, we are here, morphology, syntax. Now we are looking at semantics. It's the study of meaning, and there's the most famous sentence in linguistics. Can you read it all? Okay. If you are doing linguistics, you cannot escape this sentence. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Proposed by Noam Chomsky, the great Chomsky. So, right? Is fine. Should I proceed or yes? Yes. Yeah. So. Is it a sentence in English? Yes. Why do you say that?
It's syntactical.
Why do you say that?
It's grammatical.
Yeah, why? Because there's a noun which is qualified by an adjective, which is again qualified. There's another adjective. You can have multiple adjectives. So there's a noun. Then there's a verb. So this becomes a subject, verb, and then this becomes an adverb, right? And they are in correct order. As we discussed earlier, English is a positional language. It dictates that certain elements need to be in certain positions and follows that, right? So this is a perfectly valid English sentence. Yes and no, because it is perfectly valid syntactically, but semantically there are so many problems. Colorless and green cannot go together. Ideas, it's an abstract entity which cannot, now having color is the property of concrete entities and not abstract entities. So ideas cannot go with green. Then sleeping is again some activity, so to speak, associated with living beings, or not just humans, living things or living beings, and which is, idea is not one of them, so it cannot sleep. And then furiously, when you are sleeping, it's implicit that you are calm and not furious. So the point is, it's wrong. There are a lot of things wrong semantically, if not syntactically, even if not syntactically, right? So, okay. So semantics studies all these problems. Now you have also lexical semantics, like this was on the level of, well, a sentence, but you have lexical semantics, so study of meanings of words. So interrelationship between words like polysemy, homonymy, synonymy, antonymy, etc. You heard of these terms. Polysemy, where one word has multiple meanings. Homonymy, now homonymy is, looks like one word has two meanings, but actually it's two words, two different words that look like the same word. Obviously they have two different meanings. Example? Yeah? Accept. Accept and accept. Yeah, that's a case of confusion. Accept and accept. But like, exactly. Fruit flies like a banana. So, like one. Now, do you say like as an adverb, it has one meaning, and as a verb, it has one meaning? Wrong. There are two different words that look the same. Obviously, they have two different meanings. Whereas polysemy is wherein one word, true word, has two different meanings. Okay? Okay, let's not go too much into detail. Synonymy, wherein multiple words have similar meaning, not same. Technically speaking, no two words can have the same meaning. If they have, one word disappears. One word is bound to disappear. It may not do so overnight, but maybe 50 years down the line. So, technically correct way of saying is similar meanings. So, more than one word have similar meanings. They are synonyms. Then antonyms, opposing meanings. Hyponym, hypernym, hierarchical structure of words. Whereas, wherein like fruit and banana. So, fruit is a more general term, and banana, apple, orange, they are more specific. So, fruit becomes a hypernym, hyper, and banana, apple, orange becomes a hyponym. Again, I reiterate, all this study has to happen in linguistics. If not, any grammar checker or any translator, automatic translator in the world, if it doesn't acknowledge this or takes help of this, it's going to go wrong. Okay? And that's the L in NLP that people forget. So, then going ahead, you have automatic dialogue systems, virtual assistants, natural language generation systems. That's a whole what do you call, field of research, NLG. So, they need to build on morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, discourse analysis. What is discourse analysis? The study of interrelationship and connectedness of utterances in a dialogue. Like when somebody says good morning, you cannot say I am hungry, right? What do you say? If you say I am hungry, then the person looks at you like there is something wrong. Good morning, you are supposed to greet good morning. Or like, what are you doing? I am writing or something. What are you doing? I am going. Probably right, but something else, I don't know, some weird answer, it's cold. What are you doing? It's cold today. What happens is, even if both the sentences are correct, their interrelationship or connectedness is wrong. Okay? That's how your dialogue advances, and that's what the system needs to learn as well. Alexa, open the door for me, and then Alexa turns on the fan. So, you have, and then why is it difficult? It has so many implicit references. I have stopped eating meat. So, there is a presupposition that you were eating meat earlier and now you have stopped it, right? Then there are deictic references, that is pointers like I, you, today, here. Who's I? I am hungry, who's I? It's anybody who says that sentence, it's not me in particular or you in particular, right? It's anybody who says that sentence is I. So, that I, object of I keeps on changing. You, again, today, what is today? The day when you are speaking is today. It can be today, tomorrow, day after, next year, it will still be today. So, capturing that today is hard. Here, what is here? Over here, there. Then there are elliptic utterances. You don't always speak in complete sentences, right? What do you think of this? Is it okay? Okay. You don't see, yes, I feel this is okay. You don't say this all the time, right? You just say okay, right? Or you okay? Are you okay? You don't say this. You okay? Yeah. Done. So, all these are elliptic references and the system needs to understand all this, right? Pragmatics, study of the unsaid. A lot of times when you say something, you don't really mean that, you mean something else. Could you please pass the salt? You have two possibilities. One, you can say yes I can and just sit there. It's valid, right? Could you please? Now that's a question on, well, it depends on how you interpret it. Is it a question on your ability to pass the salt? Then your answer, yes I can. You have answered the question. But then it's a request to actually pick up that salt and pass it on to you. Then you've probably met the goal or the objective. But for, I mean, unless that you do this study of pragmatics, the system is, again, as I said, for Alexa, it's hot. Alexa should turn on the fan. It can't just say, yeah, it is hot. It's actually a request to turn the fan on, right? This knowledge has to be built into the system, and that's the L that you cannot forget. So, it's hard work. Why? Why is all this hard work? It's language, right? You use it day in, day out, 24/7. It's still hard due to the ambiguity. There's so much ambiguity built into language that we humans find it difficult to disambiguate. What about the computers? You have to teach. Vagueness, we are vague. Yeah, I'll come around 12. So, what's that around 12? 12 in the morning, 12 in the night. It's all vague. Continuous evolution. Somebody said it evolves. Language evolves continuously. And your study or your system has to take care of all that. Now, okay, to give the grammar checker a benefit of doubt, in my earlier example, he been teaching, to give the benefit of doubt and not really give it a 0, people do say, I've been doing that, right? Probably, and again, I don't know the internal algorithms and how that flow is happening, etc. But as I said, to give it a benefit of doubt, it probably trained on those sentences which use I been doing, he been doing, you been doing, etc., etc. And yes, it's a valid utterance. Why not? But language is evolving all the time. Every year, Oxford University Press publishes a list of words that come into the dictionary and a list of words that are going out of the dictionary. That's the evolution of language for you. New words come in, new constructions come in, new sounds come in. How many of you say phataka or fataka? Fataka, fataka, phala, phala, phanas, phanas. Marathi used to have ph and not f. This f is the influence of English, but see, it is changing. Instinctively, more and more people are saying f and not p. Recently, there was, I don't know, or some time back, there was this WhatsApp forward going about 14th vowel number 13 and 14 in Marathi. Now, we used to call it Barakhadi, right? A, A, I, I, U, A, O, Aha. Now, you have A and O. Why not? How many of you say bat? How many of you say phai? How many of you say ball and chendu? Chendu phaiचा खेळ बघितला or bat ball? How many of you say match or samna? Match, bat, ball have become Marathi words, isn't it? A is now accepted or should be accepted as a Marathi vowel. Why not? Ball. So, the point is, this is evolution and it happens every day. The thing is, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes 50, 100, 200 years to happen. So, we don't realize it, but we are living it, we are doing it, we are changing the language. And there's nothing wrong in it. There's nothing wrong. It has to change and evolve, else it will die. Okay, a topic for some other discussion, sometime. Too many such topics. Okay, so the pain area. Statistics versus domain knowledge. All these systems they're built on statistics, day in, day out, big data, analytics, and so on, tons of data, etc., etc. So, statistics is nothing but a tool that processes data and comes up with patterns and numbers. That's it, but it doesn't understand what it's doing. There is no domain knowledge involved, whereas domain knowledge, they come and it has rules or interpretations that come from research, observation, that is data, which is fine, we do not disagree, but it has taken years of it, like hundreds years, so many centuries of work to come up with grammars of languages, Sanskrit, Marathi, we do not have too many for Marathi, but French, English, etc. So, statistics comes up with patterns and numbers, that is it, it does not understand anything. So, you need to interpret all these patterns and numbers, you need domain knowledge. And then all the rules that are built into domain knowledge, they come out of data and observations, as we said earlier. So, it is a scientific study of language, so it is based on data and observations. So, these they feed into each other and they should feed into each other. So, it should be a symbiotic relationship between statistics and domain knowledge. Unfortunately, it is not so, or I observe more and more that this domain knowledge part is being ignored or maybe forgotten. So, another debatable point is rule based system versus data driven system. These days we have all data driven systems. So, you have millions of bytes of data, etc. So, they are easier to develop, they require tons of data for training, but then they work only on training similar test data. If there is some sentence that comes out of your training set, rather that is outside of your training set, your system fails. So, you have to go back and retrain, or you cannot use the same system that is trained on legal data, you cannot use it on medical data, for example. You have to retrain everything. Fine, it works, but that is the hassle. Rule based systems, they require more time, effort, obviously, more resources to develop. You cannot have them in a same, you cannot develop rule based systems in the same time frame as a data driven system. But they do not require any training, the rules are there. Your grammar book, for example, language grammar book, you just encode it first, you have a system, it tells you how to speak, you encode it, it teaches the system how to speak, right. Only thing is, it takes time and effort and patience, right. Works on any test data, like English, once you teach the system English word sentence pattern, it does not matter whether it comes from legal domain or medical domain, it works, but it might not be easily scalable, that is the drawback. So, both systems have their advantages, disadvantages. What is important is to think of something like this, it is not actually versus, but it should be a plus. So, if you have a system that can profit from immense domain knowledge that is there and the scalability and robustness of data driven system, their iterative cooperation will make it stronger. You have rules, feed it with data. You have data, find out patterns, etc., feed it to domain research and identify or interpret it, then feed it back as a rule. Okay? So, all these should go symbiotically. Okay? So, well, that is actually the conclusion. It should not be a versus, it should be a plus. That is the end. Thank you.